Okay. Are we on? Yep, we're on. Hello. Hi. Good people. Beautiful people. I am back with more content for thee. I don't know if what thee means, but it just sounds cool, okay? I'm back with more content for you. Um, I'm not sure if you guys will have noticed. I have experienced a slight change of scenery. Um, where I was before, that is the video that I made the last time. That was cold. Like the actual place was cold. Like that was very cold. The floor had like tiling. Um, it the room was like open because it was like kind of like the dining room and stuff. It was kind of open, and brah, now I am in a much closed space with flooring that is not tiles anymore. So I'm much warmer now. Okay, but the last video I was just barely keeping it together, okay? Don't mind the flipping smiles and all that other nonsense that I was doing. I was cold as hell. So, yeah, basically this is just me being a little bitch. There you go. So, I have sought refuge in one of the smaller rooms in the room, and I have to say I am more than satisfied with the results so far. It's extremely warm in here, and I love it because I don't have to use a heater or anything like that, okay? And please don't mind the wobbling like this. You see that? Of the camera. Yeah. It's kind of on a bed, my laptop. Since it's a small room, there's no table. So that's all I can do, okay? I don't know. What more do you want from me? This is all I can do for now. Yeah. But maybe, I don't know. As the summer goes on, okay, I will be going back to the living room. Or should I say the dining room rather, because the dining room is much how do I put this? It's just much better, you know. There's like a table and stuff, and the chairs are nice, and now I'm also on a chair, but I don't like this one. I just don't. It's a nice chair. I just don't like it. Okay. So what's happening today? Let's see what's happening today. What's happening today, ladies and gentlemen, is this right here. This is Hypocrite's channel. Okay. A video was released about a week ago, I think, where he's going to be talking to Willem Petzer. I don't know if his name is Willem or Willem. I apologize for butchering your name, my dude. But everyone calls you Willem, so I'll call you Willem as well, okay? Now, this is a conversation that they had, like I said, a week ago. And I thought to myself, why not just check this out, you know? After all, I do like torturing myself with, oh man, just content from people that I just either don't like or disagree with, okay? And Willem Petzer and this Hypocrite guy, whom, by the way, I've seen debate, I've seen his positions and stuff. Ah, it's painful to listen to, okay? That's all I have to say. It's extremely painful to listen to. And after doing that video on Willem as well, he's also extremely painful to listen to. So I'm genuinely interested in this particular, you know, interaction right here. Um, like it's genuinely interesting me. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, let's check this out real quick, shall we? Because I can guarantee you this much, okay, big boy? Um, I am okay. I don't want to say anything. Okay, let's see if William gets it right, because I don't expect this hypocrite guy to get anything right. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just not.
Everywhere. Trucks burnt out on the road.
What's the truck?
This is Queen 90 Drive, Oaks, by the petrol station.
All right, so that's
Oh, and I was actually like kind of scrolling through the video. That's why it's kind of started like after the 3 minute line or the 3 minute mark. So yeah, because I was kind of like checking when the stream begins and stuff, and this seemed like an appropriate place to start, unless of course I missed something. I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why it started where it started. Okay, don't panic. Calm down, Kimosabi.
Just one little video, but that's basically happening on a large scale, like all over the country. And
Oh come on, my dude. It's not. I haven't been watching for like 10 seconds, and he's already wrong. You know, when you're like a foreigner, yeah. When you're like a foreigner, it's probably in your best interests to do more research than the average person. Because guess what? You're a foreigner. You're not exposed to the politics of a foreign country on a daily basis. This is the kind of stuff that I don't like. When someone says it's happening on a large scale, to him, large scale is all over the country. 2 provinces is not the whole country. I'm willing to bet he doesn't even know how many provinces are in South Africa. But 2 provinces are not the whole country. Okay? Don't say that nonsense. The other 7 provinces were not involved in this. In fact, the only kind of like large scale provincial looting, I would say, that took place was in KZN. And in Gauteng, there was no large scale kind of like provincial looting. The looting happened in select areas, like specific areas of the Gauteng province, okay? Not, you feel what I'm saying? It was KZN and parts of Gauteng. Everywhere else was okay. It was just fine. For example, Maponya, right? I think we all were quite aware of the videos where the Maponya residents were kind of protecting their mall and stuff like that. In the northwest there were attempts to do it, but they failed spectacularly. They failed spectacularly. Okay, so yeah, all of this was like just quelled. So it's not happening across the country. Do your research. I mean, surely if you're going to be hosting a stream about something so important, then surely you're going to do your research. Surely. But unfortunately, that is not the case.
we got a super chat from Rocky Desert Flower who says, saw Serpent ZA talk about this for over 2 hours. He's a YouTuber who grew up in Cape Town. So maybe you guys can check that out if you're looking for a better source. Willem is also like Willem. I don't know how many of you guys know Willem Petzer, but I've been watching his channel for years. He's talked a lot about the farm attacks that have been happening over the last several years. And so he's really got like the inside scoop on South Africa. So that's why I asked him to come on, and it's just a shame he's not here. I'll give you like my basic understanding of what's happening there, and then I'm just gonna end the stream and try to reschedule with Willem for some other time. So Jacob Zuma, I guess, was the
Are
former
you telling me that he's not going to show up? Why am I doing this then?
president, and South Africa is basically a one-party state. I don't know if I should switch to this view. Probably not.
South Africa is not a one-party state. South Africa is not a fucking hell. See, this is, oh man. He probably doesn't know any other political parties in South Africa. He can't name them. I can guarantee you that much. Just because you've been voting the same party in for the last 27 years or so doesn't make South Africa a one-party state. Not to mention the fact that the Western Cape is literally governed by the flipping DA. The ANC doesn't even have complete control of South Africa. You understand that, right? Of course you don't. Dude, come on, man. Like, South Africa is an extremely, like, divided country along, like, political lines, right? Depending on where you go, you will find a lot of, like, difference in terms of, like, just the political kind of, like, landscape, right? If you go to Cape Town, very rarely will you find, like, a lot of support for the ANC, okay? In fact, funny enough, you find support for, like, the DA, which is obvious, right? But the new boys on the block, Gayton McKenzie's Patriotic Alliance, they're actually starting to like gain and stuff, right? and then you have the Freedom Front or something like that. I can't remember what it's called in Afrikaans, but something like that, right? They're also starting to gain, because what happened is that the DA is like kind of like losing voters now. So a lot of these parties in Cape Town are like just swooping in, right? Or should I say the Western Cape rather? And then you have the EFF, right? South Africa is not a one-party state. It isn't. Check the election results. There is one particular trend that has been happening since maybe the last 3 elections or so, which is basically, hey, the ANC is on its way down. That is not an indication of a one-party state. A one-party state is flipping China. Okay? And the funny thing is, I would actually understand if what you were saying is like, okay, maybe it's a one-party state in the sense that you see a lot of these countries that claim to be democracies, but aren't really democracies in the sense that, for example, Zimbabwe, right, with like ZANU PF. Technically speaking, there are other parties in the country. They are, but they kind of like rig the elections, ZANU PF, to stay in power, and it's almost like a dictatorship. In that particular sense, I would actually say that Zimbabwe, in theory, is supposed to be a democracy, but in practicality, when you're on the ground, when you see what's actually happening, it is pretty much like a one-party state, because they consolidate power like crazy, right? China, for example, is an example of a one-party state. By law, China is a one-party state. North Korea is a one-party state. You feel what I'm saying? South Africa is not a one-party state. Okay? Calm down. There's literally like no evidence to support that. What is this? That there's no evidence to support that particular assertion, which is why I am extremely skeptical of basically just people who, especially foreigners, right, who talk about things that, first of all, like they should have done a lot of research on, and secondly, like I just said, you being a foreigner by default makes you very susceptible to misinformation. It makes you very susceptible to exaggeration. It makes you susceptible to just, honestly, just bad takes in general, right? Which is why I'm interested in what Willem has to say, because as much as I don't like his particular political views and stuff, he's like 1,000 times closer to what's actually happening in South Africa than you are.
Not because it's, I don't know, it's a little bit weird still, but I'll leave it like that. They're like a single party state, and it's the ANC party, and they're basically the party that was supposed to that was supposed to fix South Africa after apartheid. What's his name? Nelson Mandela, I'm sure you've heard of, I believe was the original leader of the ANC and like the original president that was first elected. I don't even know if that's true. I better check that really quick. Was Nelson Mandela president of South Africa? Prime Minister?
No prime minister, my dude. President, okay?
Yeah, he's the president from 1994 to 99. So apartheid ended in 99. The ANC took over, and Nelson Mandela was the first leader. Apartheid was basically like Jim Crow. It was segregation. Blacks weren't allowed to run for office. They have a few racial or ethnic groups in South Africa. You have the whites, who were kind of running the show, top of the tier, the elites, back during the apartheid days. Then they have actually a significant Indian population.
I'm actually impressed. I wasn't expecting him to get it right so far. Funny enough, I'm actually I'm impressed, I have to say. So far, anyway. My only disagreement is when he says white people used to run the show. Politically, white people don't necessarily run the show anymore. But economically, which, let's be honest, is kind of where it counts. You feel what I'm saying? white people still run the show like fucking crazy. Okay, big boy? There's still a lot of work to do, but let me give you some leeway real quick.
As well. And there's been some videos I've shared some on my Twitter of like gangs of Indians going around with guns defending their communities. But apparently one of the Indian communities got attacked and like wiped out. This was something I wanted to ask him about because I don't know too much about it. And a lot of people have been shot over the last week in South Africa. A lot of people have been shot by people who don't want the looters coming into their communities. There's also some Asians, and there's also the coloreds they're referred to as, which is mixed race, black, white people. So apartheid was like a racial segregation, and there was other rules, and it started to get pretty bad towards the end. There was, that kind of policy tends to create resentment. And so there started to be like a militant sort of uprising, a counter uprising. And there was some violence that happened. Some people were killed, like put down by the white government in power, which of course created more resentment. And there was a lot of international power from the outside. My audio cut out. Why is this? I split in half on the screen because I just not set up to have two people. I could add like a dummy person to fix it, but what happens is then I get an echo. So we're just on real boomer hours today. I could make the screen all black, but I think this is a little bit better like this. Exploding Pretty sent $5, thanks, and says, the sequel to Who Killed Captain Alex is pretty damn extreme, dude. I'm not sure what that means. So anyway, they eventually, the apartheid rulers, I don't know what their party was called, I can't remember, but they eventually agreed to like allow democratic elections, and that's when Nelson Mandela came in and tried to fix things. He was president for 5 years. I honestly don't know much about his rule. I really don't know that much about South Africa, so I apologize for that. What I do know is that the ANC has been in power ever since, and there's a lot of corruption, a lot of looting, a lot of cronyism. People have gotten very rich being in the political ruling class in South Africa over the last 25 years, including the former president, Jacob Zuma, who it's well known that he was corrupt and looted a bunch of money. And so he was supposed to go in front of a commission. Like they're basically the new leader of the...
Okay, see, oh man, okay. I'm actually quite impressed. He hasn't managed to say anything wrong so far. He's generalizing on a very gross kind of like, scale, but it's not the bad kind of generalizations, And he's obviously kind of admitted that he doesn't know much. So that's nice, which is why I'm waiting for William right now, okay? I'm waiting for William. William, show yourself! Show yourself, man.
The NC, who's also like a billionaire, by the way, the new guy, I forget his name. It's like Ruyahumba or some shit. Let me check real quick. Ramaphosa, Cyril Ramaphosa. He's a billionaire.
Ramaphosa. For anyone who's watching this. Ramaphosa, okay? Ramaphosa. There you go. Fixed it for you.
The current president of Africa, because he's been looting the country and corrupt, just like Zuma was, but he's trying to like basically throw Zuma in jail as like a bone. And I'm going to keep this short, but unemployment is a huge problem in South Africa. And when apartheid ended, the unemployment rate was like a quarter of what it is now. So basically the unemployment rate has like quadrupled over the last 25 years under the ANC. And that's why people are at the end of their rope because the poverty and starvation, and this is obviously going to make things worse. But what happened was when Zuma, the previous president, refused
Okay.
to.
See, this is where like I have a problem with people like this. I have a serious problem with people like this. Fucking hell. What is this thing? Okay? I have a problem with people like this. It's arguments like this that make me lose my shit. Okay? Whenever someone says the unemployment rate was lower during apartheid, it's like, yeah, pretty much. It was, funny enough. Kind of was. What you kind of neglect to mention was the fact that, you know, being employed is not an indication of your quality of life. Being employed is not an indication of your quality of life, my dude. That's just not, it doesn't work like that. Back in those days, for example, you as a black person would get paid half whatever like a white person would make because you were black. Like there wasn't like any other reason or whatever. Because you were black. The level of, in fact, like I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of black people, the vast majority, a good like over 95% were underemployed, like severely underemployed, simply because of the color of their skin, right? So it's things like this that basically make me go, you know, it's these kinds of like sneaky arguments, right? Where you make it seem like people were somehow happy with their living conditions or they were somehow happy with their situation when apartheid ended. And now, all of a sudden, they're unhappy, right? Or you're trying to make it seem like they were more happy then than they are now. What I can promise you is that the average life of a South African is much better than it is today, than it has ever have been, ever. Black, colored, Indian doesn't matter. White people, that's another story for another day. So whenever people sneak in, and this definitely is something that Willem himself has done in a conversation that he had with Ronaldo Gos, right? When they basically end up making like the comparison that the quality of life back then was better than it is now. It's like not really, and this is kind of like why people call you a racist, you know, where you end up making claims like just because people were more employed back then than they are now, that some like things were somehow better. We have to go into the nuance, my dude. We have to go into like, issues like what kind of employment was it? Were black people allowed in trade unions, for example? Not really. There's a lot to go through. Like it's not just employment, unemployment, and that's it. You feel what I'm saying? But he is telling the truth when he says that one of the major reasons for people looting and striking and stuff is unemployment. You feel what I'm saying? Like it is one of the reasons.
Go in front of the council, and he still had a lot of supporters, probably like a lot of the people.
However, don't mistake me saying, for example, right? Don't mistake the fact that people are, protesting unemployment. Don't mistake that for, that like the idea that they were somehow happier back then just because they were employed, right? I can guarantee you that people would rather be unemployed and like free to like vote and like, be able to start a business and like, if you go to like a bank, you actually have a chance of, actually being given a chance at like a loan and shit like that, right? Like I would rather be unemployed and enjoy all the freedoms that I do today in today's South Africa than be employed and be treated like a fucking like half a human, like as they used to back then. And as I speak like that, holy shit, man. We're like 7 minutes left to the whole damn thing, and it says with Willem Petzer here. So I don't know if he's gonna show up or not.
People he made rich during his rule, and they started rioting and looting. And when they started doing that, the police didn't really do much. And so everybody, all the other poor people saw, oh, you can just go loot and the police aren't going to do.
No. See, again, that's the thing, right? It's not that the police weren't doing anything. What ended up happening is that the police, first of all, in South Africa, you're kind of not allowed to shoot people because you just want to shoot people. It doesn't work like that. Our constitution is extremely progressive. What do I mean by that? You're not allowed to shoot people just because they're looting. You're not. You're not allowed to kill people, my dude. If you know what I'm saying? Like, you just aren't. Don't kill people. It's not cool, you know? I understand the looting is happening. And trust me, I was outraged. Holy shit, I was outraged. I was fuming. But the idea that your, you know, whatever, to the value of whatever, is somehow more important than like a human life. More so a human life that's kind of like just desperate to do what they're doing because they kind of have no choice but to, right? Like, I often feel like this whole thing has been like not necessarily blown out of proportion, but misdirected in the direction of, oh, look at these people who are looting, just mindless, you know? It's like, that's kind of what happens when you close the fucking economy and you don't give people any economic relief. You don't give people any plan, nothing. The unemployment is rising. You're closing the country again. Like, people get fed up, man. And then there's just like the cherry on the cake, which is you close the alcohol, Cyril. Ramaphosa, don't close the alcohol. That's a bad idea, okay? Don't do it. But back to the point. Like, the police weren't just chilling there, okay? First of all, you're not allowed to kill someone, right? You just aren't. Secondly, if you're a policeman, it wasn't gonna look good for you or your department or whatever if you just shot people dead. The job of the police during the looting was to deter people, to stop people from looting, not to kill them, right? Because after that we have like another Marikana, and it's not gonna work. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, so if you are the police, the only thing that you are ordered to shoot, and this is the case by the way, the only thing that you were ordered to shoot was rubber bullets, and that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, so what ended up happening is that first of all, ammunition ran out, like the rubber bullets, they ran out. And the police couldn't use live ammunition for reasons that I just explained. And then there's the third one, which is, bruh, there was just way too many flipping people. So many people, in fact, that all the police officers that were like on leave and stuff, they had to be recalled. That's how bad the situation was. Okay? That's how many people were compared to that's how many people there were compared to like just the sheer numbers of the police, right? The number of people just outnumbered the number of police officers that were there like working and stuff. So that's what ended up happening. So now here you are as a police officer, right? You're chilling there. Your bullets are finished. Your rubber bullets, they're finished. You can't do anything. You genuinely can't do anything because a mob of people, a mob of angry people, is not gonna listen to you when you just go over there and you tell them to stop. It just isn't gonna happen. So what ended up happening is that the vast majority of the police force were left powerless, and that's why you kind of see the eventual kind of like, you know, deployment of the South African National Defence Force onto the streets to help the police, because the police were overwhelmed, right? It's not because like they felt like, you know, just chilling there and watching the looting happening, if you know what I'm saying. That's not what happened, my dude. I'm extremely disappointed in you. Extremely disappointed in you.
Do anything. They're maybe afraid of the bad optics of shooting the poor black people who they're supposed to be rescuing from the bad whites. So that's kind of like the platform.
Oh no. You know, I was about to say you're correct, and then there's like the whole bad whites thing. But I'll say it anyway. You are correct in saying that the optics doesn't look good. Okay? It just doesn't look good. But the narrative of the bad white, dude, just Stop playing the victim. Like, I don't understand why white people, like, I wouldn't say white people, certain corners of, like, white people love playing the victim, which honestly, why? And then you have certain corners of black people who also love playing the victim, Like, and the funny thing is this: you have corners of, like, white people who play the victim, and talk about how there's systemic racism against white people. Trust me, I've seen it before, okay? By the way, BEE is not systemic racism. It's not. If you want me to explain, I can do that in another video, but just know that it's not, okay? And then you have black people who have this weird kind of, like, anything that happens to a black person, hashtag we are back in the apartheid days. It just doesn't make sense. To them, right? To some black people, and this is true, by the way, I don't want to say it, but I have to because it's true. There exist black people in this country who don't think that, conflict between black and white people, for example, or let me not say black and white people, conflict between a black and a white person, yeah? They think that conflict between a black and a white person cannot exist outside of the context of race. Do you feel what I'm saying? So, for example, let me make an example. If a black person does something to a white person, and that white person kicks his ass, that's racism. Even though you did something to deserve the ass kicking. There are some black people who think like that. And unfortunately, it's something that needs to be purged from society. But at the same time, there are white people, like I said, who are under this impression that, for example, there's a white genocide happening in South Africa at the moment. A white genocide. And Willem is one of them, by the way. So, yeah, I'm still waiting for Willem. But, yeah. The whole narrative of the evil white people, dude, fuck out of here with that bullshit, okay? Honestly, fuck out of here with that bullshit.
Of the ANC, right, is like the white man fucked you, but we're gonna fix it. But like I said, things have gone.
That's true, though. The white man did fuck you. And they did promise that they're gonna fix it. The difference is that they didn't fix it. Meaning that both, the white man and the ANC are kind of like trash. So that's where we are at the moment.
A lot of worse, and so that's where all the writing is. There's lots of videos. I'm not gonna go through play the videos. I'm gonna wrap this.
And no, don't take me out of context. Actually, let me put this on full screen. Don't take me out of context, okay? When I say the white man, I don't talk about white people. That's not what I mean. So don't take me out of context. If you have an issue with that, fucking hit me up, okay? We can talk about it, but I don't want to see fucking screenshots or whatever, video captures or clips or whatever of me saying the white man is trash. You know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. So, good for you, I guess. Now then, move on.
Up and try to reschedule with Willem because he'd be able to explain this so much better than me. But a lot of people say that South Africa is like the canary in the coal mine, in the sense that there's demographic issues of whites being a minority, and you're seeing how that plays out. And it's also has a lot of this kind of social justice, critical race theory, whatever you want to call it. So I think that when this goes like all the way back to when apartheid was still happening, and there was like these socialists all over the world, international socialists who wanted to end apartheid. And, maybe ending apartheid was a good idea in some ways, but the influence of those socialists like seeped into the universities a lot. And so that's what's interesting, is that you see that Western influence, those Western philosophies. And I mean, I remember one of my first videos that went viral on YouTube was making fun of this girl who was saying science must fall. This was during the Rhodes Must Fall campaign. And this girl was saying we have to decolonize science because we only learn the white man's science and we don't learn about.
Okay, so this is one of those things, yeah, where ultimately, first of all, let's be honest with ourselves, okay? There's no such thing as science must fall. Science is science. There's no white man's science. There's no black man's science. There's no science doesn't belong to anyone. Okay, it's science. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. So what she said was stupid. Let me just put it like that, and we move on. Okay, but at the same time, let's not pretend that we don't know what people mean when we say let's decolonize education. Okay, if you don't know what I mean, just go online and check like the issues that a lot of people in South Africa are still facing with like in specifically in like private schools, um and like a lot of like the racial issues that are happening there, right? Like the hair issue is a big one, right? I can't remember this one chick who was going to like Pretoria Girls High School or whatever, um when there's still like a lot of like racial issues with regards to like dress code, with regards to like hair and how you should do your hair and all those things, with regards to like behavior, with regards to like what language you can speak, even on like school grounds and stuff like that, right? There's still a lot of issues that we need to fix. That's exactly what we mean when we say decolonize fucking education. You feel what I'm saying? The standards that was set in the fucking 1940s, 1950s, 1960s for white people. And then what ended up happening is that today, black people are part of those schools that only allowed white people back then. Indian people are part of those schools that only allowed white people then. Colored people are also a part of them. Chinese people are also a part of them, right? So now we have a situation where a lot of these schools haven't changed their fucking dress codes. They haven't changed their fucking um their rules as to how hair should look. This results basically in like ultimately people are forced to straighten their hair in order to like look white ultimately, because the rules about like the hair and stuff like that, the hair is a big one, by the way. The hair is a big one. The rules about the hair and stuff like that were set in the fucking 50s, and they've never been changed. And because they've never been changed, the moment you allow someone else who comes from a different background with like a different skin color and different fucking hair and stuff like that, right? The moment you allow someone else into that environment that wasn't built for them, that's when you get these kinds of frictions. Okay? And to all of you guys who are probably going to be in the comments talking about how build your own schools, there's no such thing as your own school. Every fucking school in this country belongs to every fucking South African child, regardless of skin color, regardless of gender, and that's it. That's where it ends, that's where it begins. Okay? Don't be like one of these idiots, both black and white people, who love talking about how Africans need to build their own schools, Indians need to build their own schools. Fuck out of here with that bullshit, man. Even if you do, you know what's gonna happen? Black people are gonna come over there. Indian people are gonna come over there. Okay? There's no such thing as an Indian school. There's no such thing as a white school. There's no such thing as a black school. A lot of people like looking at township schools as black schools. They're not. If you're a white person and you want to enroll in a fucking township school, you can. It happens all the time. It's just not, common that much because, well, the vast majority of white people go to like private schools and stuff. So when we talk about decolonization of education, that's exactly what we're talking about. Okay, we're talking about an education system that hasn't changed much ever since the advent of democracy. We're talking about an education system that still caters to a specific type of person, a specific type of behavior, specific types of mannerisms, for example, and all that other stuff, right? What ends up happening is that when someone like me enters that space, and trust me, I've been to university. I know exactly what that lady was talking about. She was kind of stupid in the way she said it, but the overall message is pretty clear to pretty much anyone who's done their research anyway. okay? And that message is this. This is Africa. Why? Why are we still having classes with like, uh, let's just move on, okay? Because I've been on this way too long. Let's just move on.
Like the shamans that believe you can bring lightning down on people or whatever. There's also an extreme, like far left, like Black Nationalist Party in South Africa. I can't remember what they're called offhand. But they wear like the berets and all that, and those are, there's like, you can find videos of them being like, we're gonna go kill the white man, basically. So there's like an extreme faction too.
Everyone knows about the EFF, okay? No one takes them seriously. Well, no one educated anyway. Then again, there's extreme far-right factions like in South Africa as well, okay? Two can play at this game. It doesn't really matter anyway.
Which is always throwing fuel on the fire. And I'm very pessimistic about the outlook for South Africa because the ANC has basically done a bad job. At least that's my perception. Willem would have a better take on that, or a more nuanced take, but they basically have done a bad job, and things haven't really gotten better for this black underclass in South Africa, or really anybody except for the elites and the ruling class. But what they keep doing is they keep saying this is because of apartheid. The reason you're still poor, the reason there's no jobs, the reason you're fucked, blah, 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 is because of the white man, basically. Even the ANC kind of says this, and they have like policies of like affirmative action type policies, basically, that are supposed to be fixing it, but aren't fixing it. And
okay, see, this is the problem right here. It's another one, okay? Where to start, my guy? Where to start? First of all, and I keep saying this to a lot of people, yeah? Just because a policy is enacted, yeah? And 10 years later, nothing has changed, doesn't mean the policy hasn't worked. Guess what? I can guarantee you that this guy has no idea what BEE is and how it's supposed to work. I can guarantee you that this guy has no idea how BEE, a policy which, by the way, worked initially, it was okay initially, right? But was eventually hijacked by a bunch of corrupt fucking people who ultimately just wanted to, like, prolong their own political gain and political interest and put friends in like high positions and stuff like that, right? BEE has been used as a front, especially since like the Zuma years, the Zuma presidency. It has been used as a front for corruption. Now, when you enact a policy and you as the government roll out the funds for that policy, okay? Stick with me now, yeah? Stick with me now. When you enact a policy and you as the government give out funds for that policy, now the funds are supposed to go over here, but they end up going over here. And the reason they end up going over here is not by mistake, it was on purpose. Does that mean the policy has failed? No. My dude, you can only say, for example, that a policy has failed if you implement the damn policy and it fails. So, let me make you an example, okay? Donald Trump, since you're an American, Donald Trump had policies that they weren't the best, yeah? They weren't the best. But let me make this example real quick, okay? He decided to sanction the Chinese, yeah? This was part of his policies. I'm going to sanction the Chinese and I'm going to bring jobs back home, yeah? Okay. Now, this is an example of a failed policy, big guy, okay? He actually went ahead with the sanctions and the tariffs, and they failed. miserably. If he had said, I'm going to enact the policies and the sanctions and the tariffs and so on, but he didn't, you can't say that the tariffs failed. You can't say that the policies that he enacted, for example, the whole wall thing, you can't say it failed because didn't even get off the ground to begin with. It was just unrealistic. Okay? You can only say a policy has failed if it's been implemented and you can see the consequences of that policy. But if a policy never gets implemented to begin with, you have no sample space. And because you have no sample space, you, my friend, have no room to wiggle around and talk about how a policy has failed when you have no data to back that up. Surely, I mean, this is basic stuff, is it not?
The fact that apartheid ended like 25 years ago, and when you look at America,
Oh, no.
and you see that like the Jim Crow and that stuff, that all ended, 60, 70, 80 years ago. But you hear the same thing in America, which is like, oh, blacks aren't doing as well as whites. That's because of slavery. That's because of Jim Crow, et cetera, et cetera. So if in America they're still blaming stuff from 70 years ago, even it's kind of the same thing in America, by the way. Like,
This is why this is why this is why I have such a big problem with this guy. It's people like this that make me lose faith in humanity. It's people like this that make me lose faith in humanity. Whenever someone talks about how apartheid ended this long ago, Jim Crow ended this long ago, yeah? Whenever that happens, I just cringe. As if there's some kind of deadline, you know, that you, as for example, an oppressed group of people, yeah, be it women, be it gay people, whatever, right? As if there's some kind of deadline that you, as an oppressed gay group of people, you have a certain number of years to be successful. Otherwise, if you're not successful after 25 years, my guy, you can't blame me anymore. You can't do anything. Centuries of fucking people over, stealing their land, okay? And systemically or systematically, I'm not sure which term is the right one, but yeah, systemically pushing these people into ghetto conditions. Centuries of subjecting these people to this kind of behavior, okay? And apparently, this history and its consequences is somehow supposed to be eradicated in 25 years. He clearly has no idea about anything in South African history. The ANC is clearly to blame as well. But my problem with these kinds of people is that they lack the necessary nuance to understand things like generational poverty, generational trauma as well, for example. They lack the necessary nuance to understand the fact that if you are born poor, your parents are, if your parents are poor, you're probably going to be born poor and you're not going to make it out. It's just not going to happen. The chances of it happening are very low, extremely low. It bothers me just how someone can lack the basic like common sense and the skill of understanding nuance and the fact that, first of all, the more time passes, I genuinely think the less kind of like grip apartheid has on this country. But that's going to be a long ass time before we see that day. It's going to be a long ass time. before we can start saying how long are you going to keep blaming apartheid, it's going to be a long ass time. Okay, right now as we speak, it's both a mixture of apartheid and the ANC, but the apartheid still has like the vast majority of blame, I would say, because you can't push someone into a pit and then 27 years later, when first of all they've been betrayed by the people who promised them freedom and prosperity, you look at them and you're like, why haven't you pulled yourself out of your pit? Whoa, 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 whoa. You have no right to speak, my dude. Shut the fuck up. You have no right to speak. It really is that simple. It's not complicated. If you're not going to offer solutions, if you're going to come here and talk about but how long are you going to do this? Don't do that. First of all, you're not even educated on anything that's happening in South Africa. What I suggest, if anything, is that you stop the stream now and, you know, actually go and do your research and understand why people are still blaming both. Actually, what's happening now is that, first of all, people are still blaming apartheid, which is justified entirely. The idea that a fucking system that was so deep and efficient at dehumanizing like the vast majority of people in this country, the vast majority of like older people, like people in this country lived through apartheid. They did. They experienced the fucked up like nature of apartheid. A lot of black people, colored people, Indian people, still carry with them those scars. They still carry with them the trauma. Okay? The idea that it's been 27 years, just get over it. It's just dumb. Because it's not just an economic issue. It's a social issue. Okay? It's an emotional issue. It's a psychological issue. Black people to this day are still suffering from the effed up shit that our parents and stuff like that have had to see. Okay? It really is that simple. Someone like this has no idea of the concept in general of like generational wealth and stuff like that. None. It's extremely just end the stream at this point, my dude.
Like, things have gotten in a lot of ways worse. Like the black unemployment rate in America has gotten a lot worse over the last 50 years. Donald Trump put a little dent in it, which he was very proud of. But generally speaking,
Donald Trump didn't put a dent in the black unemployment rate, okay? If you know your shit, go do some research. I have no time to go through that. This is about South Africa, but go do some research, okay?
the black unemployment rate is worse than like it was under Jim Crow. So Democrats have been running their socialist programs in America and it hasn't been working well, but they say the same thing. The reason you're still a have-not is because of these old policies. And so that's why I'm very pessimistic about South Africa, because there doesn't seem to be a statute of limitation on this idea of like historic oppression, but their historic oppression is a lot more recent, a lot fresher. So they're going to be dealing with this for a long time. And right now they're looking at food shortages, power shortages, supply lines, probably going to be a COVID spike, et cetera. So it's going to be bad in the short run and bad probably in the long run too. But I'm not an expert in this. The whole idea of this stream was to bring somebody who is a lot
So he's not coming in then.
to talk about it. So I'm just going to end it here. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, we're done here. Never mind, we're done. I was expecting Willem, but I ended up with something else. I ended up with something else, my dude. Again, please forgive the horrible like this thing right here, okay? I don't know. I don't think I can do anything about that. I don't think it's possible. It's out of my control at this point, okay? It's out of my control at this point. So yeah, this dude should do his research, and I'm actually looking forward to their conversation, because once it does happen, once it, oh, come on, load! Once it does happen, yeah, okay. So, from the looks of it, like, Willem Pizza is on the thumbnail, but nothing, so it doesn't seem like he's uploaded anything of that particular nature so far. So I will be on the lookout for that particular video. And yeah. So for now, okay, this is what we're doing, big boy. We are going to be looking at the comments. Yay! The most beautiful part of a YouTube video is always the comments, okay? So this guy over here, Colonel Panic, says the Afrikaners need to take over again. Only way for SA to be a decent, livable country. Because it was decent and livable back when 90% of the population was, being dehumanized. You know? Also, let's just appreciate the elegant way in which he basically just talked about how Afrikaner people are somehow better governors of a country, you know? It's just inherent. It's a white thing. It's just a white thing. You feel what I'm saying? Just a white thing. That's a beautiful way to kind of like, do like light racism. I don't think it's light racism, because what he's doing is he's advocating for apartheid at this point. Ah. So let's see the replies to this, okay? Loving Life channel has a Zulu commander asking for that. Irrelevant. All the black farmers want this too. Oh, the real black farmers. Who's the real black farmer? Okay. This guy, Steve Hall. There are black farmers in SA. That will mean apartheid and resegregation once again. This is who? Needy Roy. Okay, so there seems to be a big ass paragraph over here. Let's check this out real quick, okay? He's responding and he says, maybe, but ma also be necessary to prevent anything like the current chaos. A certain demographic in the SA has clearly demonstrated it cannot room a serious modern country. You know, those blacks, they just can't run a country, my guy. It's in the genes, you know? It's just the black gene just doesn't allow you to run a country. The white gene, however, oh, big boy. Whew. That right, that's the stuff. That's the stuff of like dreams, right? That's gold. If you have white blood in you, man, you are born with the ability to run a country, okay? Ah, says it began with outright theft at the beginning and had only gotten progressively worse with time, adding slaughter to even more theft. The other demographics get along fine. It's just one that just cannot pull it off, and it's the one violently in charge since the end of the apartheid government. Violently in charge? This is like, guys, this is a fantastic way to do a racism, okay? It's beautiful. I love it. You know? I love this part right here where he says, maybe. You know? Just right here. When this person says that would mean the apartheid and resegregation once again, and this dude is like, maybe, but it's necessary. You know, it's kind of necessary. So nothing you can do, right? Nothing you can do. Da da da. Let's see. Sounds like you're describing America, especially this, but I don't care about the United States. Can't maintain what you didn't and couldn't build yourself. This once first world country is now being reduced to the capacity of its new occupants. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. You know what fascinates me about all this? The fact that right here. It says you can't maintain. What's happening here? It says you can't maintain what you didn't build, nah? And couldn't build yourself. This is a good way of basically just. It's a good time to be asking people. A lot of this country, by the way, was kind of like built by Chinese people, you know, Indian people that were brought here by like as slaves, you know. A lot of this country was kind of, I don't know if you know, but it was built by black people because of like the cheap labor. The white people didn't really do much. I'm just saying over here, okay? I'm just saying over here, you know? But hey, I mean, you're under the impression that white people built South Africa, which is kind of funny, but okay. Oh man. And then there's this right here. This once first world country is now being reduced to the capacity of its new occupants. By the way, the capacity of its new occupants is a third world country. Just letting you know, okay, big boy? Just letting you know. Yeah? It is kind of funny though how like a first world country had like 90% of its population living under the poverty line. But it's a first world country, okay? Just a first world country with slave-like conditions for 90% of the what? What? A first world country that didn't recognize the citizenship claims of its own citizens based on race? I had no idea. But yeah, it was a first world country. It is kind of funny because it was a first world country for white people, and the first world country that he's describing is for white people, and that's kind of like how they do it, you know. These kinds of people, they like to pretend that you know, the rest of the population didn't exist. What's this guy saying over here? South Africa is absolutely the canary in the coal mine. This is exactly what is happening in the US right now. This will be the end result of the rule of law. It is not if. I'm thinking is he wanted to say if. I don't know. Ah. Ah, there we go. What's happening here? If you know this one. Willem, if he lived in, I don't care about America, okay? Many black South Africans, right here, big boy. Many black South Africans feel life was better during apartheid. I'm sure that number continues to swell as time passes. Is that why the vast majority of apartheid don't approve of, like, you know, going back to apartheid? Is that why the vast majority of black people don't want to vote in like a white person into office, for example? Maybe, possibly. I genuinely wonder where he gets these like many black people. I genuinely wonder. But that seems to be the case in his head anyway, so yeah. I love these kinds of comments, man. I love these kinds of comments. Ah, yes. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Ah. Wait, what? Okay, I think that's it. I think that's it. Anyway, the kind of comment that you make, or the kind of content that you make, rather, fucking not comment. The kind of content that you make has a lot to do with, you know, the audience that you attract. And we've seen some serious racisms up to this point. So I'm not really surprised. But yeah, this was a good segment though. I was expecting William, but it seems I'm not going to get William. So that kind of sucks because I wanted to see what he was gonna say, probably incorrect and stuff, but I wanted to see what he was gonna say nonetheless. So yeah, man, that should be everything for now. Okay, it's kind of starting to get cold now, and I need to like find a way to like do something else because it's like 10:30 at the moment, and I've been recording for